Wow. Let's put this in that somewhat rare category of should have seen it coming, but totally didn't. Nintendo just released a video with Aonuma stating that Breath of the Wild will be getting DLC. Before we say anything, let's get into detail about exactly what we're looking at here. So apparently this is an expansion pass, which I guess is Nintendo's answer to the season pass or something like that. And it is $20 and it is broken up into 3 parts. First, right off the bat, right when the game launches, if you pay this $20, you will get 3 new treasure chests. And I guess in those chests, they will contain quote-unquote useful items. And one of those, I think, is a shirt. They said something about, yeah, it's in-game clothing. It's a shirt, I guess. It's not super exciting, but okay. In summer, we get a first DLC pack, and that's when things kind of really get rolling. Adds a new Cave of Trials challenge. I have not been looking too much in the game. I don't know exactly what that would entail or how much content that, I don't know, is a trial like a minute? Is it an hour? I don't really know. Also includes a new hard mode. I think the game already has a hard mode, so this must be an even harder mode, which is actually pretty cool. An additional map feature. I don't exactly know what that means either, but there you go. Those 3 things will come in the summer. Then in the winter is where it's really at. A new original story. I suppose that just means a new like scenario or something with a new dungeon and additional challenges. Very vague again, but obviously that third one there is what really brings the value to this pack. Reactions online are definitely mixed. I mean, there are people very, very firmly on both sides of the fence. So what do I think? Well, I would say that my feelings are also pretty mixed. As you know, DLC is like a really big part of the games industry, and Nintendo was hesitant at first to get involved, but they've been definitely dipping their toes into it a lot more recently. Obviously, Mario Kart 8 is a really big example. People on the pro DLC side of the fence will usually give you the same kind of spiel of how, there's inflation. With inflation, $60 games are actually worth a lot less than $60 games used to be years ago, and that's actually very true. Many see this as a very normal kind of progression of a game company and the games industry as a whole. Okay, so this entire video is just soaked, just drenched in the massive disclaimer of we won't really know for sure until we find out more. Until we really actually know what we're looking at, nobody can really make a final decision. So right now, at this moment, my initial impression is what they sound like they're offering doesn't look super duper compelling. Just on the moment, based on that one video, it didn't grab me. It didn't really immediately make me think, wow, that's cool. I think that a lot of people had a problem with the fact that they announced this now, like so close to launch, when generally when a company is doing it right, they're announcing their DLC well after launch, so it doesn't feel like they were working on this and the main game at the same time, and that they just held this back or whatever. I don't even think Nintendo did that. It's just more common, and I think people expect it for them to wait. You could possibly chalk this up to maybe cultural differences or something. It's possible that Nintendo is kind of new enough to this that they don't really understand that there's kind of a stigma, as it were, around DLC, how there's a very large portion of the games community that, they kind of got a sour taste in their mouth for the entire thing. Judging by the way Nintendo's acting, it seems like they might just think this is a purely good thing. They're just kind of like, hey, we're doing DLC for Zelda, isn't that great? Not realizing that there's a pretty good number of people that are like, no, I don't really think that's so great at all. So really, I think the reason it's not super duper exciting at the moment is the price compared to how much content it appears that we get. Once again, we won't know until later. This could be hours and hours and hours of content, and we just don't know right now. But at the moment, just based on the video, that's how it feels. It feels kind of like, I don't know, like not super duper worth it. We all know that the right way to do DLC is to not make it feel like content was held back from the main release. The main game itself needs to feel really, really substantial, and then DLC is supposed to be just like an added bonus. And that definitely does feel like what they're doing here. It does seem like, we're getting this gigantic game completely. This little thing is just kind of a bonus, and you won't really miss out on too much if you don't get it. So then the question arises, why does it cost so much? I mean, $20 is a lot of money. It's like, that's a third of the game's original price. And if this is just some tiny little fun thing, then it's like, okay, well then if the main game is this and the DLC is this tiny little thing, then why does it cost 1/3 of the price? It's just kind of a lot to ask for. I mean, if we were talking like a bunch of new missions and multiple new story things or dungeons or whatever, that'd be one thing. But I mean, just looking at that list again, it really does seem like this is paying $20 to get one new story something and one new dungeon. The rest of the stuff is not much. I mean, a couple treasure chests, that's just some items or whatever. And then like a harder mode is definitely a cool feature. It's definitely something that I would love to have, but it doesn't feel like DLC. It's not content really. I mean, I don't really know a lot about game design or anything, but it's like a few lines of code is what it feels like. Just, okay, open up the game. Enemies do 50% more damage and healing items spawn 50% less. Done. You just made a harder mode. You just made the game even harder. That's not content that you have created that you are bringing to us. And then the map item feature, whatever. Again, we don't really know what that is, but it's still just, that's not content. That's just kind of it's a feature. It's nice. It's a thing that'll be nice to have, but it's not like, it doesn't feel the same as paying for stuff to do. The meat of this DLC is in that last chunk, and this is made even more apparent by the fact that you can't buy these packs individually. Like, there is only $20 to get the entire thing. It's obvious that that's really the payoff. It's right at the end. That's where the real meat is. I know not all DLC can be held to like the exact same standard, and you can't always judge a pack based on its exact dollar price per how many hours you get to play it or whatever, but I can't help but be reminded of Skyrim, and specifically the Dragonborn DLC. Skyrim is obviously a massive, massive game, and the Dragonborn DLC adds a whole entire new island to it, and that was $20, and it was huge. It was massive. I mean, we're talking hours and hours and hours of new stuff, because $20 is a lot for DLC. I mean, lots of companies do, like $10 for a whole new story mission that lasts 2 or 3 hours. That's pretty normal. 20, they added a whole huge area of the game. We have no idea how big this story chunk or this new dungeon will be, but we can only hope that it's worth $20, because, I don't know, just $20. $20 is a lot of money. That is absolutely not to say that I am against this or that Nintendo is doing the wrong thing or something that doesn't make sense. This actually makes perfect sense. And the way I see it, Nintendo's kind of at this place where they're coming at this game like, this is more than a $60 game. That's pretty much what they're saying. They're like, we don't want to just get $60 for this game. We spent so much time and money on it that it doesn't feel worth it to us. And I could definitely see where they're coming from. Nintendo has always been about a large amount of profit per title, more so than probably any other company, just because, I mean, they like to make fun little party games and platformers and stuff, and they like to sell them for full price most of the time, and that's what they do, and that's totally fine, because they make awesome games that no one else makes, so they do that, and that has shaped their philosophy. They want to make a lot per game, and that's one reason why their prices don't go down very fast. A different publisher's game can be down to $20 after a year or so, but Nintendo's games, they stay full price for a pretty long time. They've eased up a little bit this last generation, doing like sales and stuff on the eShop, but for the most part, they like to keep those prices high and keep profit up. So for their model to work, this whole DLC thing might be necessary. It might be a thing that they have to do in order to keep their philosophy, in order to justify putting so much work into a game. To not just keep making platformers and party games and stuff. They might just be like, hey, if you want us to make a big, huge game that we obviously put so much time into, it's gonna take a little more. We're just not okay with $60. I can see that. I really can. I can see them just needing that little bit of supplemental income just to make this worth it. But if that's the price to pay, I think I'm willing to do it, especially in a case like this where this is not an unfinished game. Like, by no means. This just seems like it's gonna be a little bonus. I could probably get away with not doing it at all, but it feels kind of right to be like, okay, yes, I do want you to keep making these big, huge games. I am willing to chip in an extra $20 to get an extra little bit of fun stuff, if that's what it takes. If that's what it takes for you to put so much effort into these big, amazing, epic adventure games. I do try to hold Nintendo to the same standards as other companies. I really do, and And for the most part, I don't want to pay more than $60 for a game, like, from anybody. Like, that's really where I cap off, right there. I don't even like paying for DLC. I usually wait till, like, the Game of the Year editions come out or whatever. But I will completely admit right now that they are getting a little bit of a pass here because it's Nintendo. Like, I'm completely admitting that, but that's not just because I will blindly follow Nintendo forever, but just because they make games that are so good. This Breath of the Wild looks so much better than any other game by any other company ever invented in the entire world. They've just got this stranglehold on what I like. They have me. Nintendo is still the company that is the closest to my heart, and until that changes, I'm like, yeah, Zelda is that important to me. Zelda is so much more important than so many other series that, yeah, I'll throw a little bias their way. I will say, yes, maybe this is kind of okay. And again, just because this is a little bonus thing, if they were holding back part of the game and selling it to us in chunks like some publishers do, then I would not be okay with that because that feels really shady. This doesn't feel shady at all. It just feels like, hey, here's a little something extra for some extra money. Okay, I'm cool with that, okay. Another caveat, though, I don't want to see this for every title. I don't want them to make a habit out of making these $80 complete packages. Not that I think that they will. I just want to say right now, I'm not for everything going that way. Zelda gets a pass because it's Zelda, and Nintendo never does anything bigger than a Zelda. Again, you know, other companies bring us massive, huge games for $60. Yeah, they sell DLC too, but usually, more often than not, the base game is still more than enough for that $60 to be worth it. Zelda, though, my gosh, that game looks good. My gosh, that game looks so darn good. So, in conclusion, I am willing to throw a little extra their way to encourage this kind of game development. To say, yes, Nintendo, especially after the Wii, after all the fun, definitely fun, little more casual, just kind of family couch time games, I want to tell them, yes, please make these gigantic games. Please make games that just grab my heart and my attention and just take me on an adventure. I'm recording this pretty late at night, if you couldn't tell, so I guess I better wrap this up. Well, I get the feeling the comment section is going to be a bit of a battlefield, kind of like the rest of the internet, so let's try to keep it civil. I know this is a very hot-button topic. Who am I kidding? Pro DLC versus anti DLC. Let's get ready to rumble! Fight, fight, fight!